Oh, how's it going, everybody? We're back for another All-In Quickie. And I promised you for a couple weeks that we were going to do the grungiest band of all grunge. So here it is. We are going to do Nirvana. That's right. This very popular band right here. So yeah, I know in the Foo Fighters video I did talk briefly about them, just for the simple fact that, you got Dave Grohl, who's the drummer of Nirvana. And, as you all know, through rock history, Kurt Cobain deletes himself, and Dave Grohl goes off and starts his own band, which is successful till this day. But sort of the prequel to the Foo Fighters video, of course we got Nirvana. So, my first time hearing Nirvana, it was definitely on the radio. It Smells Like Teen Spirit that I heard on the radio, and it was not only on rock stations, but even your top 40 stations were playing them too. And this was in a time when, hair bands were still fairly relevant, fairly successful. And it was sort of that transitional year, like 1991. It was sort of that very 91, 92, they were sort of the real transitional years when it came to like hair bands phasing out and grunge coming in. And then it's like by 93, the hair band party was basically over. But Nirvana, they have a total of 3 original studio albums. Well, I guess I'm definitely going to count Incesticide, since, it was a comp album, but it had a lot of tracks that were, a lot of studio tracks that were not on the original 3, so we'll talk about it too. What the hell. But yeah, All-In Quickie. So the rules kind of go like this. Here we're talking about bands, it's like All-In, but we're talking about bands that have less than 5 original studio albums. And these guys definitely would need to get a lot of credit. And so here we go. And obviously no concert experiences with them either. I was too young and everything. But we'll start off with their very first album, Bleach. Right here. Came out in 89. So, very unknown album at that time. So here we have the song, we start off with the song Blue, not the color. We have Floyd the Barber, About a Girl, which that one was more popularized on the Unplugged in New York album later on. We have School, we have Love Buzz, which was a shocking blue cover. We have Paper Cuts, we have Negative Creep, that's a good one. We have Scuff, Swap Meet, Mr. Mustache, Sifting, and if you got the reissue, you got Big Cheese and Downer, which Downer was also featured on the Incesticide album, and I guess they later on released it as a bonus track on here. So, not really my favorite album, but, if I want something different to listen to, it's not bad. So then, we move on to the very legendary album, Nevermind, which we're going to go old school with this. That's how far back I go with this one. I got this when I was in 6th grade. Bought it at Kmart. Yeah, that tells you how dated this is. So, I'm going to do this like the old days. We're going to read it off the tape. So, Side 1, you get Smells Like Teen Spirit, you got In Bloom, Come As You Are, Breed, Lithium, and Polly. Flip the tape. You got Territorial Pissings, Drain You, Lounge Act, Stay Away, On a Plane, and Something in the Way. And that's all you got on both the tape and the CD. Which I guess, there was a hidden track on later copies that I didn't get on both of those. So if you were lucky enough to get a copy with the hidden track, you got the track Endless Nameless, which I did later on. Later on, I did go back and download that track to sort of complete the album. But a lot of good tunes on it. It was pure nostalgia listening to it. And as far as, the songs go, it Smells Like Teen Spirit and Come As You Are and Lithium, they are played a little bit too much in my opinion. But I kind of gravitate more towards the lesser-known songs on this. Like the song Breed, I love that song. Just the way it goes. Da, 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 da. And even Polly, I like Polly too. But yeah, definitely a good album. I think really about any of these tracks on here could have been a single. And it's one of those albums that could be like, like say you're a guy, say you're a person that's not really into rock, but you want to kind of get started on rock. It's definitely an album to get started on, sort of like an essential rock album, if you will, for the casual listener. So then, moving on, before we go to the next album here, we got to talk about Incesticide, which would be this album right here. So not really an original studio album, but it kind of has like, rare cuts and outtakes and whatnot. B-sides. So here we have the song Dive, then we have Sliver, Stain. Yeah, which Sliver's really good. I like Sliver. Then we have Stain, Been a Sun, Turn Around, which is a Devo cover. We have Molly's Lips and Son of a Gun, both Vaseline's covers. And then they have what's called the New Wave Polly, which is like the fast version of Polly. You have Beeswax, Downer, like I mentioned earlier, it was on the Bleach album. We have Mexican Seafood, Hairspray Queen, Ario Zeppelin, Big Long Now, and we end it with Aneurysm, which that song actually was made more popular on their live album, The Muddy Banks of the Wishkah. But this is where you can find the studio version of it. So then, moving on, we have 1993's In Utero. So, yeah, right here. And my grandparents actually got me this one for Christmas. It's kind of funny. They weren't too sure about buying me this album. But, anyhow, what we got on the track listings here, we have Save the Servants, Scentless Apprentice, the very popular one, Heart-Shaped Box. We have the song, I don't think I can say it on the air, we'll call it what they said on here, Waif Me. Of course, very controversial song for obvious reasons. You got Frances Farmer Will Have Her Revenge on Seattle. Then you have the song Dumb, which is very popular. Very Ape, Milk It, Penny Royalty, which was made more popular on the Unplugged in New York. Radio Friendly, Unit Sifter, Tourette's, and we end it with All Apologies. Very awesome, very popular song. And what's funny is if you get like one of the deluxe editions, and I think it was like a B-side too, they actually have a song called Moist Vagina. I thought that was fucking hilarious. And another song I like, they did it on the Super Deluxe edition. They released a bunch of like live cuts, and I think they put like a lot of the B-sides on there. I like the song Sappy. Real good song, real awesome. And then we move on. I know we don't talk much about live albums normally, but we have to talk about this one because there's a lot of stuff on here that's original to this album as far as what they did. So we got Unplugged in New York, released in '94, after he sadly passed away. So, of course, we have About a Girl, which was very popular on this. The acoustic version of Come As You Are. Jesus don't want me to have... Yeah, Jesus Doesn't Want Me for a Sunbeam. The Man Who Sold the World. Penny Royalty. You got Dumb. The acoustic version of Polly. On a Plane. Something in the Way. Plateau. Oh Me. Lake of Fire. All Apologies. And Where Did You Sleep Last Night? And most of these tracks here are actually covers. They're covers they did live, and they never... In most cases, they didn't release studio versions of them. So, like, let's see, Jesus Wants Me for Sunbeam, that was the Vaselines. The Man Who Sold the World, that was David Bowie. Let's see, Plateau, Oh Me, and Lake of Fire was all the Meat Puppets. So then, they did The Muddy Banks of the Wishkah, which was their live album. And really, most of that's just like live variations of their studio tracks that they did. But there is a couple that we have here that didn't make the bonus cuts until later on other albums. But you have the song School and the song Spank Through. And then we fast forward to 2002. They actually released... They actually released it's almost like a best of the box. They just called it Nirvana, but it was like the best of the box set that they were coming out with that year. They released the song You Know You're Right, and it was a real big hit. So, I guess we'll have to rate the albums here. So, we're just going to rate, like, the normal 3 albums, like the regular 3. So, as far as my favorite and my least favorite, probably my least favorite would have to be Bleach. And, it wasn't that I hated it, but I guess it had that more raw sound to it. And it didn't really fit the times yet. It was ahead of its time, as a matter of fact. But, not really my go-to. But it was one of them, I'm sure, like most people who discovered this album, they stepped back in time, back a couple years to get this after hearing Nevermind. Which Nevermind would be my favorite, just for nostalgic reasons. And right in the middle. But yeah, so kind of conspiracy. What if Kurt Cobain was still alive today, or what if he lived longer? How many more albums would Nirvana have? Would there be a Foo Fighters? Or would Nirvana have broke up, say, another 10 years from then, and Foo Fighters started later? I mean, a lot of what ifs here, but I really don't have any more on deck for All In Quickie as of now. Maybe we'll come back and do a couple more, but for right now, we're just gonna kind of take a break from like the all-ins. But I hope you enjoyed this All-In Quickie featuring the popular grunge band Nirvana. So we'll see you next time.